You know how some stories are famous for their endings? Well, what if one of the most famous endings in literature was never actually supposed to be the whole story? Today, we're diving headfirst into a literary cold case, the secret, lost chapters of William Beckford's Gothic masterpiece, Vathek. So let's start with the words of the author himself, William Beckford. He's writing to his translator, and he basically insists that the damnation of his main character, the Caliph Vathek, is perfect. It's final. You can't change it. It was this absolutely terrifying end to a story all about ambition and sin. But, and this is a huge but, Beckford was hiding something.
To really get why this is such a big secret, we first need to understand the legend itself. So let's take a look at what Vathek actually was and why it became this massive cornerstone of dark fantasy.
Okay, so picture this. It's the 1780s, and this novel, Vathek, just drops, and it becomes an absolute sensation. I mean, it's this wild story about an incredibly arrogant Caliph who, in his desperate search for forbidden knowledge and ultimate power, makes a pact with a demon and, you guessed it, gets condemned to an eternity in the fiery halls of Iblis. For its time, this was just completely intoxicating, dark, strange, and unlike anything else.
In this quote, it just perfectly captures Beckford's whole mindset. He wasn't just, telling a story. He was creating an entire world. He explained that he was basically taking his own life, his own home, and just cranking it up to 11, turning it into this fantastic, otherworldly, and frankly terrifying Arabian nightmare. He was soaring, and he was daring the reader to come along for the ride.
But this is where our mystery really kicks off. Because while the whole world was reading about Vathek's singular, lonely journey to hell, Beckford knew it wasn't the complete picture. Not even close. The clues, it turns out, were hidden in plain sight, right in his personal letters. This one, for example, was written right as the novel was getting published, and you can practically feel how agitated he is about the whole thing.
This line from his translator, Samuel Henley, gets right to the heart of the fight. Beckford was absolutely furious that the English translation was being rushed to print. He was trying to delay a publication that he claimed was never designed to come out the way it did. So you have to ask, why? What was the problem? Well, his entire grand plan was being compromised.
And this is the exact question that haunted literary scholars for more than a century. If Beckford thought Vathek's damnation was perfect, but the publication itself was a disaster, what was missing? And this, my friends, brings us to the hunt for the missing pieces. For decades and decades, they were little more than a rumor, a kind of ghost story in the literary world. The trail for these lost tales is just wild, stretching out over 100 years. In the very first editions of the book, there are hints about other stories being told in the Halls of Eblis. Then, in 1815, Beckford himself confirms it, saying he's prepared some episodes that were meant to be in the book. And then, poof, silence. For almost another 100 years, all the way until 1909. Can you imagine the excitement? Something that was only whispered about, a missing part of an absolute masterpiece, was suddenly real. The manuscripts, written in Beckford's original French, had just been sitting there the whole time in the family archives at Hamilton Palace, just waiting. So what did they actually find in those archives? Well, they found the stories of the other sinners that Vathek meets in hell, the very tales that were meant to complete his own. And here it is. Take a look. The actual title page of the first story. This isn't just a book page, it's a recovered artifact. It's the missing piece of a puzzle that was over 120 years old.
So the big find included 3 complete tales, which are now called the episodes, and each one tells the tragic backstory of another damned soul, or a pair of them. They explore these massive sins, religious fanaticism, forbidden love, insane pride, and they all end up with the exact same fate as Vathek. An eternity of wandering with a heart literally on fire.
I mean, just looking at the actual manuscript pages, you can feel the weight of history. This dense, flowing script held the key to Beckford's true and much darker vision for his novel. And these weren't just bonus content, They were absolutely essential to the entire structure he had imagined.
And the stories themselves are just chilling. This quote right here is an instruction given to one of the princes by this evil mage, and it's just a tiny glimpse. These tales explore all the different winding paths that lead to the same hell, weaving this incredible, rich tapestry of sin.
So what does this huge discovery actually mean for the novel we all thought we knew? Well, it changes everything. It completes a vision that got totally cut short by a rushed publication.
Honestly, the most important takeaway is this. Beckford never ever intended for Vathek to be a solo act. The Caliph story was just meant to be the frame, the way you get into this whole collection of interwoven tragedies.
When you look at these pages, you're seeing pieces of a much, much larger world. Every story adds another layer, another perspective on sin and what happens after. They show us that Vathek isn't unique. He's just one of many who fell for temptation.
The rediscovery of these episodes completely transforms Vathek. It goes from being a single story into an anthology of damnation. It becomes a shared universe of hell, where all these different stories echo and reinforce one another. This was Beckford's grand and almost lost design.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought, doesn't it? The story of Vathek's lost tales is this amazing reminder that history is fragile, art can get lost, and visions can be left incomplete. It really makes you wonder, what else is out there, just sitting in a dusty box, waiting for the right person to open it?